In today's culture, economies are not in the greatest condition. Only a few countries can legitimately say that they are doing well for themselves. And Greece would definitely be considered a struggling economy. Very generally, I want to start out telling you about the location of Greece and the countries that surround it because they are directly related to the growth and stability of Greece as a whole. Greece is a peninsula located on the southern part of Europe with islands that are divided into what are known as the Ionian Islands and the Aegean Islands, and then you have Greece Peninsula. Greece is also encapsulated by the Mediterranean Sea, and the countries that are around Greece include Italy, Turkey, Albania, and Bulgaria. Throughout the history of Greece, it has had to rely on the countries around them for support and help through financial problems and debt. The history of Greece's financial status can help better our understanding of the current economic situation. In 2009, Greece suffered from what can be referred to as a debt binge, in which it solely relied on European countries around it to keep it afloat. In March 2012, European officials helped Greece negotiate a landmark debt reconstructing deal, which is considered the largest default in history. Greece swapped $77 billion in Greek debt for new bonds worth as much as 75% less. With this deal in place, it made way for the Troika to be formed. The Troika was formed by three different organizations, which include European Commission, European Central Bank, and the International Monetary Bond. This was set up so they could begin to release funds for their second bailout package, avoiding an uncontrolled default. But this idea failed drastically in its execution. The problem with this idea is that rather than helping Greece, it began pumping funds back to the Troika. So rather than buying time for Greece, it instead built up more interest on the massive amount of debt that Greece had already accumulated. Since these problems went down, Greece has formulated new packages in hopes to wipe away the debt, but they are still not doing well. Greece is a part of what is known as the Eurozone, which is a group of countries that all use the euro as their common currency. Greece has continued to remain part of the euro area, even though there have been rumors of them leaving. But they haven't, and this affects the businesses within the country individually and as a whole because the euro is struggling. Good business is such a vital part of a successful economy because it fuels and supports monetary flow, which gives room for a company to have success. Greece has a unique culture that can be described with great diversity and richness. Traditions, practices, music are all prevalent within the country of Greece, and the arts are much appreciated also. The society of Greece values the close-knit families, and the society has actually evolved a great deal from the idea of family. The social organizations that have been formed and created have provided important benefits and welfare for the people of Greece as a whole. The traditions and religious practices that have been kept over the years have formed a strong core of social lifestyle that the Greeks carry into every aspect of their culture. Other areas such as fashion, food, and literature all play a part in forming the culture and country of Greece that we value today. In Gert Hofstede's model of culture, he has 5 different areas of how to analyze and break down a culture. These include power distance, individualism, masculinity, femininity, uncertainty avoidance, and long-term orientation. In this breakdown of Greece's culture, the country scored highest in uncertainty avoidance with a score of 112, which means that ambiguous situations tend to make the country go into panic. The country's government and society reacts to that panic by introducing bureaucracies, more laws, and rules in hopes to make the world a more predictable and controlled place. Because of this mindset, Greeks tend to be very passionate and demonstrative people who give off emotion very easily and usually react from that emotion. In the power distance, Greeks scored a 60, which is on the higher end of the scoring rate, and this infers that the Greeks are strong believers in the idea that hierarchy should be respected and inequalities among people are totally acceptable. This distribution of power reflects that the people holding power in a society have more benefits than the people who are less powerful. This can also be carried out into the business aspect of Greece's culture and economy because there's usually one boss that is respected and followed by the rest. Greece scored a 57 on the masculinity-femininity dimension of Hofstede's cultural analysis, which means that the societal culture ranks more so on being driven by men rather than women. It is a success-oriented and driven way of life, and men consider it an honor to take care of their family while the wives and children submit to that authority. Greeks speak highly of respected people in their towns and cities of their country, and it is a huge thing for the leaders to have that respect. In individualism, Greece scored a 35, which means that their country is more of a collectivist culture rather than individualistic, which means that it focuses on the we rather than the I. People in this country are integrated into strong, cohesive in-groups, which establishes a loyalty early on in their life. This is a very controversial issue, though, because other cultures would perceive this as nepotism, which has a negative perception because they think that you should culture yourself with other people rather than people that you know. In businesses within Greece, they find it important to establish trustworthy and lasting relationship with partners that are doing business with each other. The last dimension of Hofstede's cultural analysis is long-term orientation. Greece has not shown any score at the moment in this dimension because it can't focus on the future when it has so much debt to take care of. I also want to talk about taxation in Greece. Taxation in Greece is a big dilemma right now because there's so much debt going on that they're having to pull taxes out from a lot of different areas, and people that normally wouldn't have to pay such high of taxes are. This video shows a little bit about that.
Thousands upon thousands of people have turned out. The parliament discussing the property taxes proved extremely unpopular in the country. You can see the tension levels rising. Again, the people chanting. They're extremely opposed to this. We've already seen the riot police moving in there. You can see bottles of water at the moment being thrown. Certainly it feels like a repeat of what we saw in the summer when those protests escalated, and sadly we saw the violence. Now Sunday evening we saw a similar thing happen on Syntagma. It's been a struggle here to get the situation under control for the first time in this country. You're seeing people below the poverty line being taxed. They simply don't have that money, and they're calling on Eurozone leaders now to be realistic. The talk is certainly turning to that of a Greek default. Analysts here have said to us that really it's a case of how that happens, whether it's a controlled default that's on Greece's terms, or whether EU leaders will again play by their rules and for their benefit, really. Now, the Greek Prime Minister, George Papandreou, has been having meetings today in Berlin. He said he thought the country could get out of this crisis, and we heard the German Chancellor saying much the same thing. But people have grown extremely sceptical about this rhetoric. You only have to look at the numbers that are turning out, and I can tell you it is a tense situation. We've got a standoff once again between the riot police and the protesters here. We've already seen some bottles being thrown. Everyone hoping that the situation doesn't once again descend into violence like we've seen happen before. But unfortunately, that is the level of anger today amongst the Greek people. People we've been speaking to saying they can't afford their rent, they can't afford to support their families. The visa applications for Greeks wanting to now move abroad has risen dramatically as unemployment has plummeted. Extremely volatile situation. They're simply fed up with what they see as a complete and utter widening between what the people are asking for and what the EU leaders are pushing through. Now, Eurozone leaders at the moment are still as yet to decide on whether to provide that €8 billion cash injection that Greece so desperately needs. It's thought that potentially they will be approving that because they don't want to see Greece exiting the Eurozone. If Greece leaves, then anyone can leave, and that really, what most people have said, would spell the end of the Eurozone altogether. But a situation at the moment really on the brink. Everyone extremely tense, extremely unhappy with what has been happening in their country.
As you can see, the taxation in Greece and the chaos that is coming is affecting every part of it, and business is not very fun to be a part of right now. This is a breakdown of the financial analysis of the Greek country. As you can see on the top part, it shows the GDP growth rate of Greece within the past couple years. As you can see, it started out low and it has begun to decrease dramatically throughout the years as we continue. This is showing that Greece's financial status is not good at all. They are struggling in debt and their bailout plans and packages are not helping. Underneath that, I have a chart that shows the rising debt. And as you can see, it shows the government revenue versus government spending and the public debt. Public debt is high and the government spending is higher than the government revenue. So if they continue down the path that they are on right now, they are only going to increase their debt, which will decrease the amount of people that want to start businesses in their country. On the subject of businesses in the country, I have a video on this next page that shows, and here is the video that shows what the current business conditions are entailing.
The Greek shop owners who are still in business amid a sea of austerity and unemployment are hoping the start of the January sales will bring more customers through their doors. Shoppers suffering their 6th year of recession were lured into the main commercial streets by promises of bargains, with retailers worried but still hopeful. This clothing store owner said in previous years, December and January accounted for around 4 or 5 months' worth of our business. Now, of course, things are very different because we have the crisis, but we also offer discounts frequently during the year. They need the boost from the bargain hunters. Sales in the run-up to Christmas were down 20% on the previous year, according to the Hellenic Retail and Business Association. Household budgets have been squeezed by austerity measures, including higher taxes and cuts in public sector pay and pensions to shore up public finances. The shuttered shops are no surprise, given that surveys show the crisis means Greeks have lost half of their purchasing power over the last 2 years.
In conclusion, Greece is a great country, but it has a lot of work to do in order to make businesses and companies want to go there and pursue careers. Greece needs to be able to find a way to get out of its debt so that it can make it back to where it was. Through this presentation, I showed you the culture, the financial analysis, and a lot of just what Greece is and what it has to offer and what it's struggling with. I hope that you learned a lot through this, and thank you so much.